Hello and welcome to our broadcast of the Talmid. Today's program features the expositional teaching ministry of Dr. Eddie Ildefonso. Pastor Eddie is the International Dean of Covington Theological Seminary and the Senior Pastor of West Los Angeles Living Word Christian Center, located in Los Angeles, California. The Hebrew word Talmid is a word used to describe a true student of the Word of God. We have a lot to cover, so let's join Pastor Eddie as we open up God's Word for God's glory.
All right, let's open our Bibles to Romans chapter 1. Abrir nuestra Biblia, Romanos capítulo 1. Now, last week, la semana pasada, we got to Paul. Llegamos a Pablo. Romans chapter 1, Romanos capítulo 1, verse 1, versículo 1. Pablo, a bondservant, siervo. Stop. I can't get past that. Pablo, a slave, un esclavo. The word there is doulos. Literally means slave. Literalmente significa esclavo. Now, in this country, en este país, we believe, creemos, rather, let me change that, cambiar eso. Our understanding of a servant, la comprensión que tenemos, nuestro entendimiento de un siervo, is like when you go to a restaurant, un restaurante, and there's a waiter. Hay una mesera, right? And they serve it, te sirven, and you give them a tip, le dan una propina. Okay? Now, some restaurants, algunos restaurantes, they give them a base salary, le dan un paquete de un sueldo básico, and then plus tips y juntamente con propina. Other places, otros lugares, they just work strictly on tips. Trabajan solamente en propina. Every place is different, cada lugar es diferente. Okay? Now, the ones that work only on tips, los que trabajan solamente en propina, you have excellent servants. Los siervos son excelentes. The ones who receive a base salary, que tienen un sueldo básico, usualmente, it's lousy service. El servicio es pero horrible. Because they don't care, no importa. In the New Testament, Nuevo Testamento, as well as in the Old Testament, igual en el Antiguo Testamento, you discover y descubre that the word servant, la palabra siervo, okay, is not the way we use it today, no es la misma como la usamos hoy día. This is another example, otro ejemplo, of our modern day language, del idioma moderna hoy día, whether it's in English, sea en inglés, en Spanish, o sea en español, okay, where we misunderstand y mal comprendemos how the word is used biblically, como se usa la palabra bíblicamente. The word is ebed in the Hebrew, la palabra ebed en hebreo, which means slave, significa esclavo. But it's translated, traducida, in our English Bible, en la Biblia en inglés, and in the Spanish Bible, en la Biblia en español, as servant, como siervo. In the New Testament, Nuevo Testamento, the word servant, la palabra siervo, is doulos. Again, otra vez, it's translated as servant. Se traduce como siervo. That is not the correct translation, no es la traducción correcta. Now, none of us, ni nosotros, is in love with the idea, estamos enamorados con la idea of being a slave, de ser un esclavo. Now, just for the moment, I want you to look at that entire map. Fíjense en ese mapa. I want you to really look at it, verlo. It represents the world, representa el mundo. Okay? And when you notice the 7 continents, los 7 continentes of the world del mundo, I want you to try to comprehend, quiero que ustedes traten de comprender, 94% of the world's population, 94% de los habitantes del mundo, in the history of the world, en la historia del mundo, 94%, 94% experienced slavery in their history. Experimentaron esclavitud en su historia. 94% of the world, 94% del mundo. When the translators were translating the Bible, y cuando los traductores estaban traduciendo la Biblia, and they came across the Hebrew word, y cruzaron con la palabra hebrea, servant, siervo, or slave, o esclavo, they rehusaron to write the word slave, escribe la palabra esclavo. And in England, Inglaterra, when the first translations commenced, y las primeras traducciones comenzaron, the majority, la mayor parte, de los anglosajones, of the Anglo-Saxon, the white population, were slaves, eran esclavos. They were slaves to other whites, eran esclavos a otros anglosajones. Now, you and I, tú y yo, we have an understanding in this country, tenemos un entendimiento en este país, básicamente, that slavery, la esclavitud, was basically African, era básicamente africano. And only African, y solamente africano. That is not true. Eso no es verdad. 94% of the world's population in the history of the world, 94% de la población del mundo, en la historia del mundo, at one time or another, en un tiempo u otro, were slaves, eran esclavos. So I want you to understand, quiero que tú comprendas, and I will try, voy a intentar, to hammer this concept, martillar este concepto in your head, en su cabeza, in your heart, en su corazón. Today, hoy día, we rehusamos to use the word slave, usar la palabra esclavo. In fact, más bien, you will never identify yourself, nunca, jamás se atrevía a identificarse as a slave, como un esclavo. You are convinced, está convencido, you are free, que eres libre. When you were born, cuando naciste, you were born a slave, naciste un esclavo to sin, al pecado. Jesus Christ, Jesucristo, went to the cross, fue a la cruz, in the act of redemption, en el hecho de la redención, to set you free, hacerte libre. He had to purchase, te tenía que comprar, with his blood, con su sangre, in order to set you free, para que pudieran ser libres. So let's just expand, vamos a engrandecer, this concept, este concepto, for a moment, un momento. Why we refuse, y por qué rehusamos, to even think, ni siquiera pensar, that I am a slave, que yo soy un esclavo. So for our purpose, para nuestros propósitos, okay, if 94% of the world, si es cierto que 94% del mundo, and the historians, historiadores, have already documented, lo han documentado, in every single country, en cada país, from its beginning, de su incepción, how slavery, como la esclavitud, developed in every country, se desarrolló en cada país. So let me help you, te voy a ayudar. Now, we best understand, comprendemos mejor African slavery, la esclavitud africana. Because in our history, en nuestra historia, we understand that, comprendemos eso. Okay? So let me just expand your vision, y se me permite engrandecer su visión. And I thought about our audience, pensé de nuestra audiencia, at least the members in this church, los miembros de la iglesia, okay? Let's take the country of El Salvador, el país de El Salvador. Slavery began in the year 1548, comenzó en el año 1548. Slavery, esclavitud. En El Salvador, en Salvador. When the Spaniards came, vino los españoles, all of what we know today, todo lo que conocemos hoy día as Salvadorians, como los salvadoreños, became slaves, se convirtieron en esclavos. Either you converted, se convertían, because they were Indian tribes, eran tribus de indios. Either you converted to Catholicism, se convertía, ¿no?, al catolicismo. If not, si no, you were a slave, era un esclavo. Now, history in El Salvador, la historia en El Salvador, will show you that more than 90%, más del 90% rehusaron to become Catholic, convertirse católicos. So they became slaves. Se convirtieron en esclavos. That's 10,000 started out that way. 10,000 comenzaron así. 1548, 1548. Guatemala. In the year 1531, en el año 1531, en Guatemala. Same thing. La misma cosa. I just want you to bear, quiero que mantenga, the dates, las fechas. 6,000, 6,000. Now, I want to try, voy a tratar, I want to paint a picture, pintar un cuadro, because all of you, todos ustedes, are in a state of denial, quieren negar. There is in one country, no hay ningún país, represented here, that can say, que puede decir, with pride, con orgullo, we had no slavery, no tenemos esclavitud. You're lying, está mintiendo. In 1548 in El Salvador, 1548, 90% of the population, 90% de la población, were slaves, eran esclavos. That same year, ese mismo año, 10,000 African slaves, 10,000 esclavos de África, were brought to El Salvador, fueron llevados a El Salvador. Over 90% of the Indian tribes in Guatemala, más del 90% de las tribus en Guatemala, practically the whole country, todo el país, were slaves, eran esclavos. Why? ¿Por qué? Los españoles, the Spaniards, and Portugal, Portugal. Okay? Well, in 1531, 6,000 African slaves were taken to Guatemala. 6,000 esclavos africanos fueron llevados a Guatemala. It's the reason why, la razón por qué, you go all over Central America, va por toda Centroamérica, and there are blacks, hay africanos. And they've been there, hasta ahí, almost 500 years, más de 500 años. Honduras. In the year 1527, el año 1527, 32,000 African slaves, esclavos africanos, were taken to Honduras. Lo llevaron al país de Honduras. And the majority of the Indian population, la mayor parte de la población india in that country, en ese país, were slaves, eran esclavos. To the Spaniards and the Portuguese, los portugués y los españoles. Nicaragua. In the year 1542, el año 1542, 24,000 African slaves were taken. 24,000 esclavos africanos fueron llevados to the country of Nicaragua, al país de Nicaragua. And the whole country, todo el país, the natives, los nativos, were slaves, eran esclavos. México, todos los mexicanos. In the year 1519, el año 1519, The majority of the country, la mayor parte del país, were slaves, eran esclavos, to the Spaniards, los españoles, and the French, los franceses. In fact, the French and the Spaniards, los franceses y los españoles, they fought over Mexico, pelearon sobre México. Are you ready? ¿Listo? 200,000 African slaves, 200,000 esclavos de África, were taken to Mexico, fueron llevados a México. Perú. South America, Sudamérica, alone, solamente South America, Sudamérica, had more slaves, tenía más esclavos from Africa, de África, including the Indians, the local native Indians, incluyendo los nativos indios. They were in the millions, eran millones. South America was a place to die, era un lugar para morir. Portugal, los de Portugal. Fought Spain, peleó a España por South America, para Sudamérica. In Peru, solamente Perú, knowing that my Peruvian brothers are here. In 1525, el año 1525, 6,000 African slaves were taken to Peru. 6,000 esclavos de África fueron llevados ahí. Now, I'm speaking to this group, hablando de este grupo, because this is the group that we know best about, el grupo mejor que nosotros conocemos. Now, every country, cada país, denies, niega the history, la historia. Puerto Rico. When Spain and Portugal landed, España y los portugueses, and France y la Francia, and those three, esos tres, they fought, pelearon. All of the Indians, los indios, los taínos y los boricuas, they were the two main tribes, las dos tribus principales, taínos y boricuas, were slaves, eran esclavos. Well, in Puerto Rico, they took 84,000, llevaron 84,000 African slaves, esclavos de África. Puerto Rico is not that big, no tan grande. Mexico had 200,000. Había 200,000 en México. The United States, los Estados Unidos. In the year 1620, el año 1620, 500,000 slaves from Africa, medio millón de esclavos de África, were taken to the United States, fueron llevados a los Estados Unidos. $11,863,000, 11,863,000. Almost 12 million, casi 12 millones, of African slaves, esclavos de África, were taken from Africa, se fueron llevados. $72% died, murieron, en los barcos, on the ships, and were buried, or they weren't buried, no fueron enterrados, they were thrown overboard, tiraron los cuerpos into the ocean, en el mar. En England, en Inglaterra, where it was estimated, estimaba at one time, en un tiempo, during this period, durante este periodo de tiempo, 32%, 32% of the Anglo-Saxons, los anglosajones, in England, Inglaterra, were slaves, eran esclavos. Slavery, la esclavitud, is not new, no es algo nuevo. It's worldwide, es por todo el mundo. Canadá. 340,000 slaves, 340,000 esclavos en Canadá. And the majority, la mayor parte, in 1685, el año 1685, en Canadá, well, all of the Indians, todos los indios, were slaves, eran esclavos. La esclavitud indígena en Latinoamérica, en total, en Latinoamérica, de México hasta Chile, the indigenous population in Latin America, from Mexico to Chile, who were slaves, que eran esclavos, 9,870,000, almost 10 million, casi 10 millones, were slaves, eran esclavos. Now let's talk about Jewish slavery. Hablar de la esclavitud de los judíos. Are you ready? In the history of Jews, la historia de los judíos, 10,540,000, 10.5 millones were slaves, eran esclavos. Con razón no queremos hablar de la esclavitud. It is no wonder we don't want to talk about slavery. Nobody, no hay nadie who is innocent es inocente. En nuestro linaje, in our bloodline, the blood of slaves, la sangre de los esclavos, pours abundantly, derramada abundantemente in our history, en nuestra historia. So when Paul spoke about slaves, y Pablo hablaba de esclavos, he understood, había comprendido what it meant, lo que significaba. In Romans chapter 1, Romano 1, he said this, Pablo, a bondservant, un siervo, no, a slave, un esclavo of Jesus Christ, de Cristo Jesús, called as an apostle, llamado a ser un apóstol, set apart for the gospel of God, apartado para el evangelio de Dios. Look at your notes, mire sus notas. No person is a true follower of Jesus Christ unless he is enslaved by Christ. Ninguna persona es un verdadero seguidor de Cristo a menos que esté sometido a la esclavitud de Cristo. In fact, it is impossible for a person to belong to Christ unless he is enslaved by Christ. En efecto, es imposible que una persona pertenezca a Cristo si no está esclavizado por Cristo. This is the shocking message that Paul wants to get across to the believers at Rome. Ese es el sorprendente mensaje que Pablo quiere dejar impreso en los creyentes de Roma. So we're going to look at this. Vamos a revisar esto. The first point, primer punto, he was a slave of Christ. Era un esclavo de Cristo. Paul was a slave. Pablo era un esclavo. And what he's saying, lo que está diciendo, that's exactly, es precisamente who we are, quienes somos nosotros. You are delusional, completamente con las canicas patinando. If you believe, tú crees, you are free, que tú estás libre. Somebody been lying to you, alguien te está mintiendo. See, when you were born, cuando naciste, you were born as a slave to sin. Naciste como un esclavo al pecado. And it was Jesus Christ, Jesucristo, who purchased you, que te compró. And the Bible says, dice la Biblia, with his blood, con su sangre. Your salvation, su salvación, transferred, hizo una transferencia, of your slaveship, de su esclavitud, from Satan, de Satanás, to Jesus Christ, Jesucristo. And when I see that almost 12 million, casi 2 millones, of the slaves in Africa, los esclavos en África, died, murieron. And 10.5 million, 10.5 millones of the Jewish slaves, los judíos esclavos, not to mention, no mencionar, the over 9 million, más de 9 millones en Latin America, solamente en Latinoamérica. But if you add up the world, incluye todo el mundo, hay tantos ceros, there's so many zeros. So in this world, en este mundo, none of us, ninguno de nosotros, is in love with the idea, enamorado con la idea, to be called a slave, ser nombrado o llamado un esclavo. That's one of the reasons, una de las razones why man fights. Porque el hombre lucha y pelea not to submit, no someterse to Jesus Christ, a Jesucristo. Now, he tells us in point 1.1, he says that Paul, a bondservant of Christ Jesus, Pablo, un siervo de Jesucristo. Now, the word slave, la palabra esclavo, el siervo, is the word doulos, la palabra doulos, it's in Greek, en griego, no? And the word is ebed, la palabra ebed, in Hebrew, en hebreo. It means far more than just a servant. Significa mucho más que un simple siervo. It means a slave totally possessed by the master. Es un esclavo, propiedad absoluta de su amo. That's who we are, en cual nosotros somos. It is a bondservant bound by law to a master. Es un esclavo unido a su amo por la ley. Now that word bondservant, esa palabra siervo, okay, is the common New Testament word for servant. Es la palabra común en el Nuevo Testamento para aludir a un siervo o esclavo. Although in the Greek culture it is most often referred to as involuntary permanent service of a slave, aunque en la cultura griega se refiere con más frecuencia al servicio involuntario permanente de un esclavo, Pablo, and this you need to be careful, esto tienen que tener mucho cuidado, he elevated the word, elevó la palabra. He elevates the concept, va elevando el concepto of being a slave, de ser un esclavo. He elevates this word by using it in the Hebrew sense to describe a servant who willingly commits himself to serve a master he loves and respects. Pablo elevó este término a emplearlo en su sentido hebreo para describir a un siervo que se compromete de manera voluntaria a servir a un maestro a quien ama y respeta. Let me ask you a question. Es una pregunta. Did somebody force you? ¿Alguien te forzó? To be born again, nacer de nuevo? Somebody put a gun to your head, puso una pistola en tu cabeza? ¿Pusieron grilletas? They put chains on you? No. See, the Hebrew concept, el concepto hebreo of a slave, de un esclavo, it was voluntary, voluntariamente. I choose, yo escojo someterme, to submit myself to you. In Judaism, in Judaismo, or in Israel, in Israel, when a slave was set free, his time had been served, había dado su tiempo de servicio, iba a ser libre. And many slaves, muchos esclavos said, I don't want to go, no me quiero ir. And this is how they would submit to some, así se sometían, voluntariamente. El amo, the master, would take that slave, tomaba el esclavo, and he put his ear at the doorpost, y ponía su oreja, el poste de la puerta. y con un cincel, with a spike. And you see all those young people today, hoy día, big old hole in their ears. They look stupid. They think they're cool. And he would confess, y confesaba públicamente, publicly, in front of the whole community, toda la comunidad. I'm free, estoy libre, but today, hoy día, I choose, escojo, for life, por vida, to be a slave, ser un esclavo, to this family, esta familia. And they would put his ear, poner su oreja, y con un cincel, with a spike, they pinned him to the doorpost. Y lo martillaban al poste de la puerta. And for 3 hours, 3 horas. For 3 hours, 3 horas. Can you imagine the pain? ¿Te puedes imaginar el dolor? And worse y peor was to take that spike out. Era sacar el cincel, el clavo, out of the wall, afuera de la puerta, without injuring, sin golpearlo más. Then they would dip his ear, sumergían su oreja, in a barrel, un barril of salt, de sal. That was a Jewish slave. Era un esclavo judío. Who was willing, dispuesto, to serve his master, servirle a su amo, for the rest of his life, por todo el resto de su vida. Seven years later, 7 años después, the master, el amo, would adopt him, lo adoptaba, as a son, como un hijo, with all of the rights, y todos los derechos. Now, if the master, a ver si el amo, only had daughters, solamente tenía hijas. That man, ese hombre, would inherit. Él recibía la herencia. Whole family. La familia. Because he is now a son. Ahora es un hijo. He had the responsibility, tiene la responsabilidad. Because you need to remember, tener que recordar that Judaism, el judaísmo, okay? In Israel, in Israel, it was a community of faith. Era una comunidad de fe. It's not individual, no es individual, like you think you have the privilege y tú crees que tú tienes el lujo. Well, I'm a believer, soy un creyente, but I don't go to church, no voy a la iglesia. But I'm a believer, yo soy un creyente, I'm spiritual, yo soy espiritual. You're an idiot. You're stupid. I'm going to say that really clear. Eres un idiota y estúpido. Did I say? The book of Acts, el libro de Hechos, says that he purchased the church, compró la iglesia with his blood, con su sangre. You don't have the right, tú no tienes el derecho to choose y escoger, I'm going to be part of the church, voy a ser parte de la iglesia, or I'm not going to be part, no voy a ser parte. I don't know where you got such audacity or what stupid pill you drank. No sé, no sacaste los pantalones o qué pastilla de estupidez tomaste. And that slave, ese esclavo, who becomes a son, ahora se convierte en hijo, provides y provee for all of the daughters. Y todas las hijas, hasta the last one, hasta la última, either gets married, se casa, or dies, o muere. And if she dies y ella muere with children, it's his responsibility, su responsabilidad, to raise them, a criarlos. See, Pablo, he understood, había comprendido. He said, Pablo, a slave, un esclavo of Jesus Christ, de Jesucristo. See, he had había elevado that term, ese término, to what I just described, acabo de escribirle a ustedes. I have no problem, no tengo ningún problema, to call myself, no matter what, a slave, un esclavo of Jesus Christ, de Jesucristo. Now, if you're embarrassed to estar avergonzado, vete. Be a free man, sea libre. Quickly, rápido. Exodus chapter 21, Éxodo capítulo 21. Let's look at verse 5 and 6, versículo 5 y 6. Now, I believe, yo creo that I have provided, lo he provido in your notes, en sus notas. Only because, solamente porque, we have two languages, hay dos idiomas, okay? And for the purposes of time, but mark your Bibles. Marca sus Biblias, okay? Look at this, Exodus 21, Éxodo capítulo 21. He says this in verse 5 and 6. But if the slave plainly says, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out as a free man. Pero si el siervo insiste diciendo, amo a mi señora, a mi mujer, a mis hijos, y no saldré libre. See, a slave, when he set free, cuando dejaban de libre a un esclavo, and he was married, estaba casado, the overwhelming majority, la mayor, would not leave, no se iban. You know how your salvation is individual? La salvación es individual. So the slave was set free. Le daban libertad al esclavo. Only him, solamente él. But he had a wife, tenía esposa, children, hijos. And the master, el amo dijo, you can go, te puede ir. And the master, el amo, would give him, le daba a él, 7 years of wages, 7 años de sueldo. You can go, te puede ir. You're free. And he would give him a letter, le daba una carta. Now your wife, tu esposa, she stays, ella se queda, and your children, y sus hijos. He said, I don't think so, no lo creo. What do we do? ¿Qué es lo que hacía? Seven years later, 7 años después, he becomes a son, se convierte en hijo. His wife and children, su esposo y hijo, free, son libres. He gives them, le da, another 7 years of wages, otros 7 años de sueldo, to provide y proveer for his wife and children, por sus hijos y su esposa. In addition, más the inheritance, la herencia. Verse 6, versículo 6. Then his master shall bring him to God, and then he shall bring him to the door or the doorpost. And his master shall pierce his ear with an awl, and he shall serve him permanently. Y entonces su amo lo traerá a Dios y lo traerá a la puerta o la quicial, y su amo le horadará la oreja con una lenza, y él le servirá para siempre. Galatians chapter 1, Gálatas capítulo 1. For I am now seeking the favor, he says, for I am now seeking the favor of men or of God. He asked the question, ¿por qué busco ahora el favor de los hombres o de Dios? Hace la pregunta. Or am I striving to please men? ¿O me esfuerzo por agradar a los hombres? If I was still trying to please men, I would not be a slave of Christ. Y si yo todavía estuviera tratando de agradar a los hombres, no sería siervo o esclavo de Cristo. You see, it's not my job, no es mi trabajo, or my desire o mi deseo, to please you, complacerlos. but to please God, complacer a Dios. So I willingly, estoy dispuesto voluntariamente to receive your rejection, recibir su rechazo, your anger y su enojo, and when your body está molesto, when I teach the word, enseño la palabra. Paul asked the question, Pablo hizo la pregunta, will I please men, estoy para agradar al hombre, o God, o Dios? And the reason, la razón, because Paul understood, Pablo había comprendido, he said, I am a slave, yo soy un esclavo of Jesus Christ, de Jesucristo. Titus chapter 1, Tito capítulo 1, verse 1, versículo 1, Paul, a bondservant of God and apostle of Jesus Christ, right? A slave of God and apostle of Jesus Christ. Pablo, esclavo o siervo de Dios y el apóstol de Jesucristo. He constantly, constantemente, he had proclaimed, había proclamado, he was a slave, era un esclavo. Look at in Genesis chapter 26, verse 24, Génesis capítulo 26, versículo 24, he says this, dice esto, he says, for the Lord appeared to him the same night and said this, I am the God of your father Abraham, do not fear, for I am with you, I will bless you and multiply your descendants. Y el Señor se le apareció aquella misma noche y le dijo esto en Génesis 26, 24, yo soy el Dios de tu padre Abraham, no temas porque yo estoy contigo y te bendeciré y multiplicaré tu descendencia. And he says, for the sake of my slave Abraham, por amor de mi esclavo Abraham. The word de la palabra es ebed. Ebed es la palabra ahí. Slave, esclavo. Numbers chapter 12, número capítulo 12, he says in verse 7, dice el versículo 7, he says, not so with my slave Moses, así no así con mi esclavo Moisés, he is faithful in all my household, y en toda mi casa él es fiel. 2 Samuel 7:5, 2 Samuel 7:5. Go and say to my slave David, ve di a mi esclavo David, and that's incomprehensible, it's incomprensible. Why? Because the only thing you know, la única cosa que tú sabes of David is that he was a king, que era un rey. Well, ladies and gentlemen, damas y caballeros, all the kings on the earth, todos los reyes de la tierra are slaves to Jesus Christ, son esclavos de Jesucristo. Isaiah 53:11, Isaías 53:11. He said, as a result of the anguish of his soul, he will see it and be satisfied by his knowledge, and the righteous one, my slave will justify the many as he will bear their iniquities. Debido a la angustia de su alma, él lo verá y quedará satisfecho por su conocimiento. El justo, mi esclavo, justificará a muchos y cargará la iniquidad de Dios. Can you imagine? ¿Pueden imaginar? Jesus Christ, Jesucristo, God the Father, Dios el Padre, calls him, lo nombra slave. And who do you think you are? ¿Quién tú crees que tú eres? The Son of God, el Hijo de Dios, submitted himself, se sometió as a slave, como esclavo, and died for you, murió por ti, and you want to be high and mighty? ¿Y quieres ser bien arrogante? Look at this. A look at the slave market of Paul's day shows more clearly that Paul meant what Paul meant when he said he was a slave of Jesus Christ. Una consideración del mercado de esclavos del tiempo de Pablo muestra en forma más clara que lo que Pablo quería decir cuando afirmaba que lo que era siervo de Jesucristo. Número uno. The slave was owned by his master. He was totally possessed by his master. El esclavo era propiedad de su amo, era posesión absoluta de su amo. In other words, en otras palabras, see, we live in a day and age, vivimos en una época hoy día, where I have rights, yo tengo derechos. Every time I hear that, cada vez que lo veo, I want to just slap you, te quiero bofetear. You have the right to die, tienes el derecho a morir. That's about it. You know, I'm up to here, hasta acá arriba. I hear this, lo escucho all the time, todo el tiempo. Now, as a member of the so-called, y miembro de supuestamente llamado, okay, of the minority, la minoría, okay, I see another one, I have rights. I just want to slam it, que no voy a bofetear. Stop being so stupid. ¿Qué tan estúpido tú puedes ser? Everybody has rights. Todo el mundo tiene derecho. What about your responsibility? ¿De qué es sus deberes? Well, it's not right. No es justo. Look at what those people do. Mira lo que ellos están haciendo. Hey, time out. 94% del world, 94% del mundo participaron en slavery, en la esclavitud. What rights do you have? ¿Qué derechos tú tienes? Fuiste esclavizados. You were enslaved. And you enslaved y esclavizaste. No se oye. I don't hear you. This is what Paul meant, lo que Pablo quería decir. Paul was purchased and possessed by Christ. Pablo había sido comprado y poseído por Cristo. Christ had looked upon him and had seen his degraded and needful condition. Jesús lo había mirado viendo su degradada y necesitada condición. And when Christ looked, the most wonderful thing happened. Y cuando Cristo lo miró, sucedió la cosa más maravillosa. He said Christ loved him and bought him, and therefore he was now the possession of Christ. Cristo lo amó y lo compró, así que ahora es posesión de Cristo. Hallelujah, amen. Número dos, the slave existed for his master and he had no other reason for existence. El esclavo, la razón de la existencia del esclavo era su amo y no tenía otro motivo para vivir. He only lived, solamente vivía for the master, para el amo. That's it, nada más. He had no personal rights whatsoever. No tenía derechos personales de ninguna especie. Hey, hello. But everybody, todo el mundo dice, I have rights, yo tengo derechos. Lord, Señor, permíteme. Just slap that teeth on the le tumbe los dientes. ¿Y qué de los deberes? What about your responsibilities? No. The same was true with Paul. He existed only for Christ. Así ocurría con Pablo. Vivía solamente para Cristo. His rights were the rights of Christ only. Sus derechos eran los derechos de Cristo solamente. You see, the master, tiene que comprender que el amo, he had rights. Él tenía derechos. Your responsibility, su responsabilidad, was to execute, ejecutar, everything, todo, that would supplement, que puede suplementar, and complement, complementar, and support y apoyar the rights of the master, los derechos del amo. You have none, no tiene ninguno. Now, trust me, y confía en esto, I'm not making friends today, hoy no me están ganando amigos. Número tres, the slave served his master and he existed only for the purpose of service. El esclavo servía a su amo y existía solamente para servirle. He was at the master's disposal any hour of the day or the night. Él estaba a disposición de su señor a cualquier hora del día o de la noche. Oh, no. I work it out, trabajo 8 horas, I'm clocked out, estoy afuera. And what are you complaining? ¿De qué se están quejando hoy día? Many times, muchas veces, you don't even work 8 hours, ni siquiera trabajas 8 horas. You're robbing the time from your boss, robando el tiempo de su jefe, de su patrón. Bola ladrones, bunch of thieves in here. Mm-hmm. I don't hear no amen here now. So it was with Paul. He lived only to serve Christ hour by hour, day by day, and night by night. Lo mismo ocurría con Pablo, vivía solamente para servir a Cristo hora tras hora, día tras día y noche tras noche. Lord, send me workers that way. Envíame obreros así. Number 4, the slaves will belong to his master. La voluntad del esclavo pertenecía a su amo. You have no will. Tú no tienes ninguna voluntad. I talk to church, me hablo con los miembros de la iglesia y digo, but I feel, yo siento. I don't care what you feel, no me importa lo que tú sientes. You don't understand, tú no entiendes. I want, yo quiero. I choose. See, the slave, el esclavo, by law, por ley, had no will, no tenía ninguna voluntad. He was allowed no will and no ambition other than the will and the ambition of the master. No podía tener otra voluntad ni otra ambición que no fuera la ambición y la voluntad de su amo. He was completely subservient to the master and owed total obedience to the will of the master. Estaba absolutamente al servicio de su amo y debía absoluta obediencia a la voluntad de su amo. Paul belonged to Christ. Pablo pertenecía a Cristo. In fact, he said that he fought and struggled. Y en efecto, dijo que había batallado y luchado por llevar. And it says this, 2 Corinthians 10:5, 2 Corintios 10:5. And this is what the slave had to do, lo que tenía que hacer el esclavo. To bring every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ. Todo pensamiento cautivo a la obediencia a Cristo. You, vos, usted mismo, you yourself, have to fight against your own thoughts, pelear contra su propio pensamiento. I will, yo sí, estaría, I will serve, voy a servirle, my master, mi amo, Jesus Christ, Jesucristo. That's work. Es trabajo. It's a battle. Es una lucha. But, no. Yo quiero. I desire. Yo deseo. You're stupid. Eres estúpido. I don't think anybody going to lunch with me today. Everybody going to be busy today. Peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And number 5, número 5. Number 5, número 5, there's a fifth and the most precious thing that Paul meant by a slave of Jesus Christ. Hay una quinta y muy preciosa cosa que Pablo quería decir por siervo de Jesucristo. He meant that he had the highest and the most honored and kingly profession in all the world. Para atender que tiene la profesión más alta y más honrosa de dignidad real de todo el mundo. I bet you never thought of a slave that way. Nunca jamás había pensado en un esclavo así. Men of God, the greatest men of history have always been called the servants of God. Los hombres de Dios, los hombres más grandes de la historia han sido llamados siervos de Dios. En otras palabras, otra palabra, esclavo, slave. Now, I'm sure yo estoy seguro that today, si hoy día, if you had to choose, tenés que escoger between being a slave, de ser un esclavo, and being a waiter, de ser un mesero, the waiter, el mesero will win, el ganar. Damas y caballeros, ladies and gentlemen, the title, el título, was a title of honor. Era un título de honor. Paul, a bondservant. Pablo, un siervo. Paul, a slave. Pablo, un esclavo. The believer's slavery to Jesus Christ is no cringing or cowardly or shameful subjection. La servidumbre del creyente a Cristo no es un vaciaje cobarde o vergonzoso. It is the position of honor, una posición de honor, the honor that is bestowed upon a man and the privileges and the responsibility of serving the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. El honor que otorga el hombre a que le otorga al hombre los privilegios y las responsabilidades de servir al Rey de Reyes y Señor de Señores. Now, I want you to see this with me. Now, I got a list, tengo una lista of 9 personajes in the Bible, en la Biblia, who were called slaves, y nombraban y se llamaban esclavos. Moses, Moisés. I think eso, yo no creo que están sus notas. ¿Eh? Number 1, Moses was a slave of God. Moisés fue el esclavo de Dios. He says in Deuteronomy 34:5, Deuteronomio capítulo 34, versículo 5, he says, and so Moses, the Ebed, slave of the Lord, y allí murió Moisés, Ebed, siervo, esclavo del Señor. In Psalm 105:26, Salmo 105, versículo 26, he sent Moses, his Ebed, his slave, envió a Moisés, su siervo, su Ebed, su esclavo. He says in Malachi 4:4, Malaquías 4:4, he says, remember the law of Moses, my slave, my Ebed. Acordaos de la ley de mi siervo, mi esclavo, mi Ebed. Joshua, Josué. Number 2, Joshua was the slave of God. José fue el esclavo de Dios. That's not what you see in the movies, no lo que tú ves en las películas. Right? I mean, la idea that you see Charlton Heston as a slave, that was just like, that's not American. Huh? No wonder your theology is all screwed up. It comes from Hollywood. Joshua 24:29, Josué 24:29, he says this, and it came about after these things that Joshua, the son of Nun, the servant, the slave, the Ebed of the Lord, died being 110 years old. Y sucedió que después de esta cosa, Josué, hijo de Nun, siervo, esclavo, Ebed del Señor, murió a la edad de 110 años. Well, for all you free guys, ustedes que son libres and you're dying at 60 y muriendo a los 60, I don't know. Slavery is looking pretty good here. Number 3, David was a slave of God. David era esclavo de Dios. And this one people struggle. He's king, es rey. Yeah. He was a slave king. Right? Look what it says. 2 Samuel 3:18, 2 Samuel 3:18. Now then do it. For the Lord has spoken of David, saying, by the hand of my Ebed, my slave David, I will save my people Israel. Ahora pues hacerlo, porque el Señor ha hablado acerca de David diciendo, por la mano de mi siervo, mi Ebed, mi esclavo, David salvará a mi pueblo. Psalm 78:70, Salmo 78:70. And he also chose David his Ebed, his slave. Escogió también a David, su Ebed, su esclavo. Pablo was proud. Pablo era, he was so impressed, era tan impresionante that he was a slave, que era un esclavo. I remember the first time, recuerdo la primera vez, that they invited me, me invitaron to preach graduation at the seminary, a predicar el mensaje del seminario, and they had this introduction to them, introducción, right? The first time, la primera vez, and then I think it was the third time, la tercera vez, my wife went with me. Mi esposa fue conmigo. And we were there, and they got this introduction. I mean, it's sickening. It's embarrassing. Da asco. And they give you all the titles, todos los títulos, and blah, 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 blah. And I was sitting there sentado ahí, and they introduced me, and I looked around, and hey, who are they talking? ¿De quién está hablando? And so I got up there, and I said, I said, I'm a slave, soy un esclavo. Jesus Christ. Nothing more. You go to the seminary, and everybody's a doctor. Todo el mundo doctor. It's just like, and after a while, I go, doctor stupidity, doctor de estupidez. I mean, it just goes on and on. It just goes on and on and on. Everybody's impressed. Todo el mundo impresionado with titles con títulos. And what was my message? ¿Cuál fue mi mensaje? Pablo, a slave, un esclavo. I said, wow, that was a graduation message. mensaje de graduar. I go, yeah, because you see, you guys are not graduating, se está graduando, okay? Se van a graduar, you're going to graduate today, hoy día, right? To become slaves. Ser siervos. Jesus Christ, Jesucristo. So intelligent, tan inteligente, so proudful, tan orgullosos, that when they walked in the platform, down la plataforma to receive their degrees, sus títulos, and they walked. And it was a Kodak moment, no? Todo mundo. When I got done preaching, terminé de predicar, they just got up there, and they called them up. My wife remembers when I was there, and they just got up there, and they walked in, and they all came like this. And they sat down. And people, take a picture. No, I don't think so. I don't want to tell you, because they invited me back. I don't know why they use me that way. Anyway, Romans 1:1, Paul, a bondservant, a doulos of Jesus Christ. Pablo, siervo, un siervo, un doulos de Jesucristo. Look at Philippians 1:1, Filipenses 1:1. He says, Paul and Timothy, bondservants, douloses of Jesus Christ. Slaves, Paul and Timothy, Pablo y Timoteo, son esclavos, siervos de Cristo Jesús. Titus 1:1, Tito 1, Paul, a bondservant, a slave, doulos of God and an apostle of Jesus Christ. Pablo, siervo, doulos de Dios y apóstol de Jesucristo. Now look at James, Santiago. He was a slave of God. Él fue esclavo de Dios. He says it's in James 1:1. Santiago 1, James a what? Santiago, siervo qué? Un esclavo, doulos, God and the Lord Jesus Christ, y Dios y del Señor Jesucristo. Look at Peter, Pedro. Peter was a slave of Jesus Christ. Pedro fue un esclavo de Jesucristo. He says, Simon Peter, a bondservant, a slave, a doulos. Simón Pedro, siervo, no. Un doulos, un esclavo. Y apóstol de Jesucristo. Jude, Judas, he was a slave of God. Era un esclavo de Dios. It says this. Jude, a bondservant, a slave, a doulos of Jesus Christ. Judas, siervo, no. Doulos, esclavo de Jesucristo. And then the prophets. All the prophets. Todos los profetas, they were slaves of God, eran esclavos de Dios. I didn't say that, you know. The Bible said, leaves la Biblia. It says, Amos chapter 3, Amos capítulo 3, look at verse 7, versículo 7. Surely the Lord does nothing unless he reveals his secret counsel to his servants, to his slaves, the prophets. Ciertamente el Señor Dios no hace nada sin revelar su secreto a sus siervos, a sus esclavos, los profetas. You know, I'm pretty good. Me siento muy bien. Be called a slave. Soy nombrado esclavo. Look at it. Jeremiah chapter 7, Jeremías 7. He says in verse 25, dice en versículo 25, he says, since the day that your fathers came out of the land of Egypt until the day I have sent you all of my servants, no? The what? The prophets, right? All of the slaves called the prophets. Desde el día que vuestros padres salieron de la tierra de Egipto hasta hoy, os he enviado a todos mis siervos, los esclavos, ¿no? Los profetas. Cristianos. I forgot about you. Creo que se me olvidó de ustedes. Okay. I know, some are high and mighty. I get that. Okay. Well, let's find out where we stand. A ver dónde nos encontramos nosotros. The Christian believers are said to be slaves of Jesus Christ. Se dice que los creyentes cristianos son esclavos de Jesucristo. Look, Acts 2:18, Hechos 2:18. Even on my bond slaves, right, doulos, both men and women, I will in those days pour forth my spirit, and they shall prophesy. For all those who are in love with Joel. And when I teach this, especially to the charismatics and the Pentecostals, they go crazy with this. I said, all you are is a glorified slave, that's all. Highly anointed. Todos aquellos que son los pentecostales, los carismáticos, que vienen bien ungidos, ¿no? Solamente eres un esclavo ungido, nada más. Dice en Hechos 2:18, dice, aún sobre mis siervos, doulos, y sobre mis siervas, hello, ley, derramaré de mi espíritu en esos días y profetizará. Hola, esclavos. 1 Corinthians chapter 7, 1 Corintios capítulo 7, look at verse 22, versículo 22. I thought I was going to have a slave revolt. Whoa! Whoa! I'm going to say, sing that song, Who Let the Dogs Out? 1 Corinthians chapter 7, 1 Corintios capítulo 7. She said, I don't like that part. Verse 22, versículo 22, he said, for he who was called in the Lord while a slave is the Lord's freeman. Porque el que fue llamado por el Señor siendo esclavo, libertó es del Señor. Now look at Ephesians 6:6, Efesios 6:6. Not by way of eye service as men pleasers, but as slaves of Christ. No para ser vistos en Efesios 6:6 como los que quieren agradar a los hombres, sino como siervos esclavos de Cristo. Colossians 4:12, Colosenses 4:12. Professor was one of your number, a bond servant, un esclavo of Jesus Christ, right? Es lo que dice ahí. Then we go to 2 Timothy 2:24, 2 Timoteo 2:24. The Lord's bond servant, slaves must not be quarrelsome, but kind to all, able to teach, patient, and when wrong. The pastors are called slaves. Los pastores son número 1 esclavos. Y el siervo, dulas, del Señor no debe ser rencilloso, sino amable para con todo, apto para enseñar y sufrido. Amen? Now, go to John chapter 12, vete a Juan capítulo 12. Let me show you this. Vamos a leer aquí. And he says, aquí dice, see, I'm nailing, estoy clavando this concept, the concept of who we are, quiénes somos. But today, hoy día, everybody around, I'm a daughter of the king. Yo soy una hija del rey. I'm a son of the king, soy un hijo del rey. I'm this and I'm that, soy este y el otro. You're rotten. Está podrido. You're a slave, un esclavo. The highest position, el puesto más alto in all of the kingdom del reino, is to be a slave of Jesus Christ, un esclavo de Jesucristo. But no. We're looking for all the diamonds, buscando todos los diamantes, ¿no? All of the gold, todo el oro, all of our crowns, las coronas, right? Yeah. You've been listening to a lot of charismatic messages. John 12:26, 12:26. You know, I preached this message, prediqué este mensaje in the South. I was in Georgia, estaba en el estado de Georgia, and South Carolina, en Carolina del Sur. And they looked at me, miraron a mí, their eyes that big, and they said, brother, you may not get out of here alive. Y yo no sé de qué. I said, well, then I'm going to glory. Fue la gloria. They're crazy, están locos. They invite me back, me invitaron otra vez. I said, I'm telling you, they're masochists, son masoquistas. I mean, there's nothing better in the world. No hay una cosa mejor en todo el mundo. When masochists como masoquistas invite a sadist. It's a marriage made. It works. Trust me, it works. Funciona muy bien. I don't know, because they're in a state of shock when I get done. I don't know what it is. When the moment they invite me, I go, yeah, seguro que sí. No problema. I'm quick to respond. Too late, I'm committed, brother. John 12:26, Juan 12:26, he says, if anyone serves me, he must follow me, and where I am, there my servants. Okay, now, I want you to see, quiero ver aquí. Now the word there is diáconos. It changes. Si alguno me sirve y me sigue, y donde yo estoy, allí también será mi servidor. Ahí la palabra diáconos. Okay? You know, we know it as deacons. ¿Conocemos la palabra con diácono ahí? Okay? Now, this is a call, un llamado, to serve, a servir. Okay? But you cannot serve, no puedes servir unless you're a slave first, antes que sea un esclavo primero. En otra palabra, it's the word, la palabra that's used, que se usa to be born again, nacer de nuevo. He says here in Romans 12:1, Romanos 12:1. This is the reason, la razón por qué you have to go back, tienen que rezar and mark your Bible, marcar sus Biblias. In Romans 12:1, Romanos 12:1, he says, therefore I urge you, brethren, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies a living and holy sacrifice acceptable to God, which is your spiritual service, la traía, divine service of worship. That's what that means. Por consiguiente, hermanos, os ruego por la misericordia de Dios que presentéis vuestros cuerpos como sacrificio vivo y santo aceptable de Dios, que es vuestro culto, la traía, servicio divino, adoración. Now, I'm sure yo te aseguro that no waitress, ninguna mesera en un restaurante, is going to present your food, te va a presentar la comida in that form, en esa manera. Now look at 1 Corinthians 15. Mira 1 Corintios capítulo 15. Therefore, my beloved brethren, be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work. That word there is ergon. Hard work, to toil of the Lord, knowing that your toil, kopas, exhaustive work with pain, is not in vain in the Lord. Por tanto, mis amados hermanos, está firme, constante, abundando siempre en la obra, en la palabra ergón, laborar con esfuerzo del Señor, sabiendo que vuestro trabajo, la palabra copas, obra exhaustivo, al dúo con dolores en el Señor no es en vano. It's what we call, para eso somos llamados. Look at Efesios, chapter 6, capítulo 6. Look at verse 6 and 7, mira versículos 6 y 7. Laboring, not by way of eye service as men pleasers, but as slaves of Christ, with the will of God from the heart, with goodwill. He says, with goodwill render duleleo. That means to be in bondage as to the Lord and not to men. That's what we're called to. Laborando, no para ser vistos como los que quieran agradar a los hombres, sino como siervo de Cristo, dice, haciendo de corazón la voluntad de Dios, servir duleleo, estar en esclavitud de buena voluntad como el Señor y no a los hombres. You know, this is becoming contagious. People go, I'm not liking this. Okay. Look at Colossians chapter 3, Colosenses capítulo 3. Look at how we're called. Ve cómo estamos llamados. Whatever you do, do your work heartily as for the Lord rather than from men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the reward of the inheritance. It is the Lord Christ whom you serve, duleo, which is to be in bondage. Y todo lo que hagáis, hacerlo de corazón como para el Señor y no para el hombre, sabiendo que el Señor recibirá la recompensa de la herencia. Dice, es el Cristo Señor a quien servís. Dice, ¿qué? Estar en esclavitud. Hebrews chapter 12, Hebreo capítulo 12, look at verse 28, versículo 28. He says this, therefore, since we receive the kingdom which cannot be shaken, let us show gratitude by which we may offer service, right, or serve, latreo, which means render religious homage. Por lo cual, puesto que recibimos un reino que es inconmovible, demostremos gratitud mediante la cual ofrezcamos a Dios un servicio, latreo, que rendir homenaje religioso, aceptable, con temor y reverencia. So notice the way, note la manera en which the Bible, en la manera que la Biblia talks to us, nos habla on how we're to serve, cómo debemos servir. Exodus 23:25, Éxodo 23:25. But you shall serve, and here the word is abad. It means to work, to serve till a causative, and to be enslaved. The Lord your God, and he will bless your bread and your water, and I will remove your sickness from your midst. Mas serviréis, la palabra que es abad, trabajar, servir, hasta causativo, que esclavizar al Señor vuestro Dios, y bendeciré tu pan y tu agua, y yo quitaré las enfermedades de en medio de ti. Now, I know you were hoping for a steak, estás esperando por un bistec, but it's bread and water, pan y agua, okay? After this message, that may be the only thing I get. Deuteronomy 10:12. Deuteronomy capítulo 10, versículo 12. You know, when I was teaching, estaba enseñando esto in Africa. And I was teaching, enseñando esto. And the church cried, comenzó a llorar la iglesia. Look, mire, and they were crying, llorando. And I said, our history, nuestra historia, is a history of slavery, una historia de esclavitud. But to be a slave of Jesus Christ, un esclavo de Jesucristo, what an honor, qué honor. I didn't even finish, ni que así termina predicando, teaching, okay? And the people came, and they landed at the altar, cayeron al altar, crying, llorando, about what a privilege, qué privilegio, to be a slave, ser un esclavo. And then they asked me, me preguntaron, and I was not ready, no estaba preparado para esto. They said, we want to demonstrate, queremos demostrar eso. Well, how do you want to demonstrate? ¿Cómo lo quieres demostrar? He said, pin our ears. Pon esta oreja. I said, ooh, time out, Jack. That was life transforming for me. Eso transformó mi vida. I got on the plane, puse en el avión, and I'm thinking, it'll never work in America. We're too prideful. Somos demasiado orgullosos, and too ignorant, y demasiado ignorantes. And I'm not sure, no estoy seguro, which is worse, cuál es peor. Prideful, orgulloso, or ignorant, or ignorante. I'm not sure which one. But in Deuteronomy 10:12, Deuteronomy capítulo 10, versículo 12, he says, now Israel, what does the Lord your God require from you? Y ahora Israel, ¿qué requiere de ti, Señor, de ti el Señor tu Dios? But to fear the Lord your God, to walk in all his ways and love him, and to serve abad. To work, to serve until you are enslaved of the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your mind, with all your soul. Sino que temas al Señor tu Dios, que andes en todos los caminos, que le ames y que le sirvas abad, ¿ves? A trabajar hasta que uno sea esclavizado al Señor tu Dios con todo tu corazón, con toda tu alma. Do you read those verses differently now? Ahora los versículos diferentes. See, we have reduced, hemos reducido all the verses, todos los versículos, to cute little sayings, frasologías pequeñitas. And not understood, no ha comprendido what it means, lo que significa. In Psalm chapter 2, Salmo capítulo 2, and we'll conclude, vamos a concluir aquí. He says in Psalm 2:11, Salmo 2:11, he said, worship, serve, abad. Adorar, servir, abad. The Lord with reverence and rejoice with trembling, y al Señor con reverencia y alegrados con temor. It's not simply diciendo, they just sing, se está cantando. It's not big thing, no es una cosa grande. May God rebuke you, que Dios te reprenda. Psalm 100, Salmo 100, verse 2, versículo 2. And I promise, te prometo, last verse, último versículo. Not the last closing, but the last verse. Oh, you can't say I lied. He said, serve, abad, servir, abad, the Lord with gladness. Come before him with joyful singing. Al Señor con alegría, venir ante él con cánticos de júbilo.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope that you were challenged by today's teaching and continue to grow in the knowledge of your salvation as you open your heart to Jesus Christ. You can find Pastor Eddie's teachings at pastoreddie.org. The Talmid is a teaching program sponsored by West Los Angeles Living Word Christian Center and Covington Theological Seminary. We look forward to joining you for our next broadcast of the Talmid.